Welcome back to Eye on South Asia. Sanjiv, we had a horrific crime that we reported right before the break.
Yep.
And now we're going to talk about the incident that the entire India is talking about, the horrific crime that happened in India. India is still in shock and mourning from the death of the 23-year-old paramedical student who was gang raped in a bus and killed.
I think entire India, yes, but all over the world, everyone's really talking about this story. This was a very unfortunate accident, very unexpected, behavior and kind of act from those 6 people, 6 men convicted for this. One of them is juvenile, and as I just gotten latest story is that 5 of them are going to be charged with murder along with rape, and one of them who's juvenile, believe it or not, they are saying that he could be free walking on the street after about 3 years.
Oh, wow.
But that is just a latest update. I don't think it's a final, but that is just what they are saying in the news wires.
Right.
That 5 of them will be charged with rape and murder. The other juvenile, he can't be charged with one of the crimes. I'm not sure yet, but he could be walking free. Anyway, coming back to the point, yes, this horrific crime was, done by this, like animal kind of individuals. And this victim, whose name has not been officially released, but after getting a treatment in New Delhi, she was transferred to Singapore for more medical treatment. And I think after 2 days in Singapore's Mount Elizabeth Hospital, she was pronounced dead because of her injuries and injuries to the brain also.
Right. This incident has really galvanized the Indian public into protest. This is the first time that you've seen the Indian public actually outwardly take a stand on this, because sexual violence has been a part of India's history for a long, long time. Well, but it's been under wraps. It's never actually been talked about in the public.
Right.
And so to see this these mass protests, these mass demonstrations, as well as the whole world is talking about it. As you said, even UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon had come out and condemned these acts and wanted some sort of justice from the government of India to step in and have some kind of reform for these kinds of acts with, something like critical services for rape victims, as well as more pronounced justice for the perpetrators.
True. Like you said, it happens in India a lot, and according to the National Crime Records Bureau, about 24,200 rape cases were reported in 2011, but they are saying it unreported cases could be much, much, much higher. So yes, this has been ongoing, crime in India. But now I think all over the world, I think there is only one single opinion of everybody, whether it's a single person like Ban Ki-moon or any organization such as Human Rights Body. Everybody saying one thing, that India's government should tighten the laws, should maximize the penalties, so that way anybody would even not think of doing this in the future ever again to a girl, especially some cases where I think minors are also, raped at very young, very tender age. So that's why government needs to step in. But for some reasons, government has been, I'm not saying quiet, but government has not.
They're being quite mum about it.
Right.
There are several people in the government, like the president, Pranab Mukherjee's son, who've been making very insensitive comments even, and the reaction is very strange, I would say.
I think, we all know it's a male-dominated society, and I think people's, males' perception, their mentality needs to be changed. They need to be, I think, educated. They need to be taught, and if anyone does this kind of crime, they need to be punished so severely, and the public should know about their punishment, so that way it will create an awareness for anyone just to not even think of doing this.
Right. Currently, India, in a poll that was conducted by Thomson Reuters, has been rated the worst country in the world to be a woman, with some of the Western countries like Canada being some of the best countries. And India has even beat out Saudi Arabia, where it's being...
That is surprising.
It is surprising, but a lot of people have cited Middle Eastern countries as being very oppressive towards women, but their capital punishment is also very severe, that people don't think of doing such things, and it creates that climate of safety for women, at least.
Right. And just to wrap it up, high-level government officials of India announced that they will pursue harsher penalties for rape, including the death penalty. Human Rights Watch opposes the death penalty now. So then here, it's going to be controversial. But if there is no death penalty, it's going to be life in prison. And I don't think it is the most severe penalty.
It's not the most severe penalty. And a lot of people in the public are demanding the death penalty for this incident and similar incidents. Sure. So we'll follow up on this story as it reveals.
And then also our thoughts and prayers goes out to victims' family and then the friends. And we share their pain and their grief.
Absolutely. All right, in business news, Rajaratnam is back in the news. The former hedge fund manager of Galleon Group, Rajaratnam, has now been charged a penalty by the SEC, which is the Securities Exchange Commission.
Right.
And he had been wanting to appeal this penalty, and now he has to pay $1.45 million.
It may sound like a huge number for all of us, right? But listen to this. So far, Rajaratnam has paid $63.8 million in criminal penalties.
Oh goodness!
and the judge has ordered him to pay $92.8 million in the civil case, which was brought by the SEC. On top of that, he has to pay $1.45 million.
That's very nominal in comparison to the previous penalties. But that just shows the enormity of how much he made in these
That's what I'm
insider
saying,
trading
for us,
schemes.
these numbers sound like astronomical numbers, but
Right.
it must be pocket change for this gentleman, Rajaratnam. And according to filing, Rajaratnam, he's actually Sri Lankan born, and he would make the payment to the SEC within 90 days after the entry of the final judgment in the court records.
Speaking of Rajaratnam,
Right.
Rajat Gupta, his right-hand man, was in the news again as well. This time, Goldman Sachs is suing Rajat Gupta. And they are ordering him to repay the $7 million in legal fees.
Legal fees. Again, $7 million. But these numbers are not that big for this gentleman. I must tell you that whether it's a Rajaratnam or Rajat Gupta, Goldman Sachs, where Rajat Gupta was a board member, so now ex-board member sitting on a Goldman Sachs, and he gave, I think, very sensitive and very secret information about Warren Buffett's investment of $5 billion in Goldman Sachs during the recession. He passed on that information to Rajaratnam, and that's how Rajat Gupta got convicted, and then the court case started, and I believe it's still going on because he has appealed in the court. Goldman Sachs is suing Rajat Gupta for reimbursement of $6.9 million because they had to go out and retain a law firm, and because the government's orders of getting all the facts done, there has got to be a lot of work, even single fax or single phone call or single note on a piece of paper. It would have to be part of the court records. Now Rajat Gupta is saying that he replied that he should not be required to pay legal fees to Goldman Sachs since the fees were worked for not necessarily incurred during participation in the investigation or prosecution of his insider trading case. And he said that Goldman Sachs is not entitled to restitution for legal fees arising from the parallel SEC investigation. Goldman Sachs replied to it saying that SEC and the criminal investigations and the proceedings were closely related. So there is a fine line in between this. They would have to go
where
out.
Goldman Sachs was being investigated themselves,
right,
and Rajat Gupta also.
But then here's the biggest news of all. Manhattan's federal prosecutor Preet Bharara, that we all know him, we talked about him last week also. He actually came out in supporting Goldman Sachs, saying that government respectfully submits that Goldman, as the victims of Gupta's crimes, is entitled to recover all attorney fees.
Okay, so all of those individuals.
Yes.
Okay, and speaking of big business and big money,
Yep.
Fortune magazine's come out with their 2012 Business Person of the Year rankings, and among the higher ranking individuals, there's Ajay Banga, who is the Chief Executive Officer of MasterCard. He has been named 8th on this list, and that has brought him to far ahead of legendary investor Warren Buffett. And
when you say far ahead, let's make it specific.
Yeah.
He is 11 levels ahead of legendary investor Warren Buffett.
Right.
So Ajay Banga, we're all proud of him, and being a CEO of MasterCard, I think has progressed himself very well.
Yes. And on that note, American jeanswear maker Levi's has named an Indian-born Harmit Singh as their CFO, Chief Financial Officer.
Exactly.
And he'll be responsible for the company's global information technology and financial functions. So they're going to be looking at an overhaul of their accounting controls and all that stuff.
Levi Strauss is the oldest name in the jeans. I think Levi's were the first one, if I'm not mistaken, besides Wrangler, to come out with the jeans years ago, right? And the Levi's jeans, their products is the best, and getting Harmit Singh, getting Indian at their CFO level, I think that's we all should be very proud of him.
Yeah, Levi Strauss is a very American brand, so to bring in an Indian American there is great pride for our community.
Yep.
And speaking of Indian employees at large, Indian employees are actually the most optimistic on the economy, the American economy, where they think that the country's economy, as much as 83% of the workforce believe will improve by this year, 2013.
Were they ever pessimistic about the economy?
Were they ever pessimistic? Well,
I think Indian American community has always been optimistic.
They've always been optimistic and highly successful.
During a recession,
right.
I think Indian American community, they have maintained their level of employment very well.
Yes.
So,
and this is compare 83% of Indian Americans to only 41% of the general public.
Yeah, true.
Okay, and speaking of India, IKEA and fellow FDI retailers, but namely IKEA looks like it's going to get the green signal to go ahead in India.
So after Walmart, that we hear all the big stories about Walmart, now IKEA is going to go into India.
Yes, their plan is to operate cafes and restaurants in India along with their furniture stores.
Well, I think IKEA's furniture stores in India would work very well because IKEA, a Scandinavian company, right?
Swedish, yes.
Right, Swedish company. And they manufacture furniture which fits in the smaller places and smaller rooms. And I think it would work very well in India.
Yes. And in relation to that, India's economy will actually projected to be bigger than UK's economy by the year 2017. And this is really looking at all of the BRIC nations, as we mentioned, Brazil, Russia, India, and China. Their economies are growing so rapidly, and we see, on the other hand, Europe is suffering a decline. So yeah, India is going to be overtaking UK's economy by 2017, with the US and Japan remaining in their dominant position.
And with that note, I think it actually caps a story that we covered earlier. In case if you missed it, the United Nations increased their budget,
yes.
And because of this countries, Brazil, Russia, India, and China will be paying more share. And now here's the news that India's economy will be bigger than UK, so that explains why India will be paying more as a member to United Nations.
And that also explains why the European countries will be paying less.
That's right.
And with that, we're going to take another short break, and we'll have some entertainment and more community news right after the break.